think at this point, it's rare to feel surprised and taken aback by a video game. It's not that every video game has to reinvent the wheel, but with the sheer volume of games around and being made today, it kind of feels like some just kind of blend into one another. So, when No Rest for the Wicked was announced and shown off at the Game Awards last December, I was like, whoa, alright, you got my attention here. Then to follow the reveal with the fact that it's being made by the team behind the Ori games, I was like, okay, now I'm interested. The Ori games are some of my favourite Metroidvanias, and then going to this is such a bold new direction for a game and a studio. I was immediately struck by the presentation of it, an aRPG looking Souls-like game, but the art direction, the colour, and just the overall presentation, I haven't really seen anything like it. Ori was so bold and beautiful to look at, but this was different. I always have the utmost respect for a gamble in the games industry because they could have just made another Metroidvania, but they didn't. They pursued a new vision. And fast forward 4 months, and here it is making its debut in early access on Steam. So, did it live up to my initial excitement? How does it compare to the team's work on Ori? And should you buy in now, or should you wait till 1.0? We'll dive into all of that. It's important for me to start though is that I don't really do early access. I guess you could consider it like a toxic trait or whatever, but I just prefer to be there day one with the complete finished package raring to go, with the developer's complete vision there for me to see. So, obviously this showcases 2 things. One, the fact that I'm in and I've played it shows how good this really did look. And 2, we have to talk about this game in the context of early access. Early access means that things said today may not be relevant in 1 week, never mind 1.0. Straight off the bat then, I do think that this is shaping up to be something incredibly special. But it's not without its flaws. I'm not really sure I've played anything like it. It's an aRPG at its most basic, you would say is Diablo meets Dark Souls. But I think it's almost unfair to boil it down to that because it really is just its own thing. You play as a Serim, a member of a group of mystical holy warriors imbued with remarkable powers and sworn to defeat the pestilence at any cost. It's a top-down camera with action-orientated combat. You got your dodge, your parry, your light attack, your heavy, your combos, sprint attack, all that jazz. It actually plays quite slow and methodical. In these games, you used to burn in multiple enemies within seconds, but most of the time it's 1v1 here or against 2 or 3 at max. The combat feels good. It took me a while to get the parry down, but once I did, you'll see in this clip me just melt a boss because I'm in that parry rhythm, I'm in the state, and it feels so satisfying. What you'll also get is these rune attacks, so they often come with a weapon, or you can roll a weapon to get them. You fill up your focus by hitting or parrying enemies to then unleash these more powerful attacks. Like I say, the combat is methodical. It's likened to Souls-like because this ain't a walk in the park. It's challenging and it is relentless. One boss took me 30 attempts, another just 5, but the game is challenging, and whilst it may look pretty on the eye, don't let that fool you. Most enemies have a good telegraphing of their attacks, but some probably do need a little bit more of that. I did get frustrated sometimes. Enemy variation is pretty cool. Ranged, shielded, magic, but even range can switch it up on the fly and go up to melee. The game likes to keep you on your toes. The boss fights feel big in the sense of scale, and just as rewarding as beating a Souls boss fight. The screaming, come on! You know what I mean? When you finally take it down after 30 plus attempts, never gets old. Apart from the dying the other 29 times, but you get the gist. That top-down nature is just so new for this kind of difficulty in a game though, but I really do love it. The leveling up works exactly like a Soulsborne in that you assign skill points to a skill like strength or stamina, and the weapons that you obtain will scale with those. This is where the Diablo aspect kicks in as well, because you've got your loot of different rarities. You've got your common, rare, cursed, or legendary. It's a cool trade-off though, in that cursed weapons will be like 2 buffs and 1 debuff, so it's like that risk reward. So you might deal additional fire damage, but your debuff might be you take 20% more damage, for example. It seems that the loot is randomized, not boss specific, which, yeah, it's neat, but it's also a bit of a problem for me. See, I felt pigeonholed at the start to go for a strength and greatsword build because after a good few hours of playing, the only rare or legendary gear I had was the greatsword, which scaled with strength. By the time I picked up any other viable weapons, I'd already assigned too many skill points to strength, and it felt like there was no going back at that point. I can't see anything that lets me reset my points yet, but maybe there will be. That's just it though. The game just throws so much at you in terms of systems very fast. But it's not just systems. The game just throws too much at you in terms of items. You're constantly being given new gear, resources, food that within the first 3 hours, I was overwhelmed. Meaning I couldn't pick up new gear or resources that I really needed because there's a problem here. Food and resources are tied to the same spot and same allocation, meaning I couldn't make food because I didn't have any resource spots left. And this is even worse because the only way to heal is to consume food until you upgrade your town to then unlock beds. It's a problematic system for healing, I've always found, where resources and food are managed in the same place, and then cooking meals and then holding those, it all just got a bit messy with inventory. I just think the approach works better when it's just potions that are upgraded, and that's how you heal. It's where the game stutters because right now, after all these hours, I'm feeling good, I'm journeying, traveling, killing, and it all feels great. But there's these like few hours between maybe hours 4 and 8 where all I was doing was teleporting back to the main town to either drop items off or sell them or buy more just to manage my inventory. As for the inventory slots, these can only be upgraded after killing the big bosses who grant you this one-time stack use, for example, equip another right-handed weapon, or plus 5 resources, or plus 5 gear items. It just means that, at least for me, the initial learning of the game felt a steep learning curve, and ultimately a very frustrating one. Alongside the fact that you can only fast travel, for at least for now anyway, between your resting point in the open world and Sacrament, which is your village, if you like, the home spot. Now, this is due to in part in the fact that areas change when you don't explore them for a while, which is very cool in concept, but in those early hours when you try and level up, get a feel of the flow of the game, and gather your build and your resources to then level up the town, it becomes pretty difficult. You want them resources because the game, like I say, does a lot more than just be an action focused game. You'll be putting your resources to use in not just upgrading your gear, but upgrading the town too. Upgrading vendors, for example, to craft a furnace so that you can smelt ingots. Or having the food geyser supply different ingredients for food. Build a place to sleep in, for example. The game does a lot. You can buy your own property eventually. In the town, you've got a blacksmith, potions person, food geezer, stonemason, innkeeper, and loads more. Then you've got a bounty guy who can take challenges for daily and weekly bounties. And then, like I say, you've got a projects manager who will take your resources to build an inn, which then ticks down during the in-game clock. The scope which this game is trying to cover is a lot. And I'm not really someone who wants to build up the ultimate settlement, so right now, I don't know if this is working to the detriment of the game or to its benefit. Like I say, all this stuff can be resolved. It's the early access period. It is so important to state that. Which is why I'm not going to be overly down about it. It's more just to highlight my personal grievances with it. It just means that those early hours, rather than spent exploring this sensationally crafted world that Moon Studios have created, I'm spending too much time mucking about doing inventory management. Well, speaking of that world then, I mean, you'll be seeing this gameplay in the background. Its visual design is immaculate. The HDR implementation is spot on and everything just pops. The game does need work on the optimization side. I mean, on a 4090 with an i9-13900KF, I'm seeing frame drops from 90s into the 20s during big boss fights, which in this kind of game matters a lot, and I've seen a lot more talk online about the overall optimization, though Moon Studios have acknowledged this and it is being worked on, so hopefully as we get closer and closer to that 1.0 release, the optimization just gets better and better. As for the visuals though, the way the camera will just pan over the city in this glowing sunset, or the rain will just splatter across the surface. Look, I'm no digital foundry. I can only marvel at how good this video game looks. Another hugely impressive feature is the game's day and night cycle, which will just completely reimagine how some of these places that you will visit look, purely based on the time of day that you are in. The cutscenes too, like some of these character models and designs are so fucking weird, but they're perfect too. They're like humongous in scale, but when you go back and you see them from the top down, they hold this like aura about how they look. Enemies and bosses are just striking the first time you encounter them, and it all just looks immaculate. There's no other word for it. Immaculate is the only way to describe how this game looks. The people of this world are also a highlight. Many of them are interactable with and do a good job of selling this world to you. It's too early to make a note on the story, but performances are good on the whole, and quests do a really good job of making you feel a part of this world. So, like I say, this is early access, and with early access comes problems, but also solutions that can be made. It doesn't feel ready, that's for sure. And the fact is that within 48 hours already, we've had a huge balance patch that already is helping with some of my biggest quality of life concerns, like weapon and armor durability and fall damage that would have been big talking points of this video that have already been resolved to a good degree. So it all just shows really promising signs. But okay, right now, in its current state, is this something that you should go out and get? The honest answer is, it depends. If you're okay with giving money now and accepting the balanced scale, itemization, and inventory systems all need some work, and you've seen how this game looks and how it plays, and you're thinking, yeah, that's a bit of me, then I do. I really encourage you to go out and support these developers and get in early access now. Otherwise, I think hold off till 1.0, because I think that when 1.0 does roll round, this is going to be something really, really special. I do. This world that they're crafting, the characters you're meeting, the crunch and the weight behind the combat and the parries, and then the satisfaction of taking down a big boss. Moon Studios are crafting something here that feels like it's on this path to being something extraordinary. Look, I could be wrong that when 1.0 hits, it's not as great. But the absolute core of the game that's on display here is looking fantastic. You add into the mix some of their roadmap in the fact that this game is getting co-op, PvP, and more of this amazing world to explore, and of course gear and probably fine-tuning those systems that I spoke about. I have no doubt in my mind I'll be back day one for its release. Because, yeah, it's me. I prefer to be there for the full package and the vision as the consumer. But it's also a testament to how good this is that I have zero regrets in hopping in now. No Rest for the Wicked has the potential to be out of this world. So, there's my thoughts on the early access state of No Rest for the Wicked. But now I want to hear from you. Have you picked up the game for its early access release, or are you just going to wait for that 1.0 version? If you have played it, what are your thoughts on it so far? Do you recommend it? I'd love to have a conversation with you in the comments down below. Truth is, I'm just here to talk about video games and everything that I bloody love about them. So, if you enjoyed hearing me bang on about my opinion of this game, consider subscribing because I'd love to have you around. If this video helped you out, maybe make a decision on getting it or build up some excitement for its eventual release, dropping a like on this video is the best way that you can show your support. Other than that, I hope that you have a terrific day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Oh, and if you haven't played the Ori games, go and play them. What are you doing?